Smoke. What is going on, everybody? Welcome aboard the Soul Train. We've got another episode of Thirsty Smurfing Thursday. And on the stream before the stream here, DeMay said he had something for me upon start. And so if we can cut the cameras over to DeMay real quick.
Look, now see,
oh
I went up,
my, what?
Listen. I went on the tubes. I went on the tubes.
What?
It's fall, right? It's soccer season, right? So helping coach the kids' soccer team. And I wanted to watch some soccer coaching videos, right? Figure out a better way to coach soccer. So as I was going through the soccer coaching videos, I stumbled upon this other video from the same guy about doing a hard cut. So I went on and I did a hard cut. I don't know if it's the right time of year to do a hard cut, but I did it. I feel pretty good, and we'll see what the results are. Really looking forward to it. Happy to be here. Go ahead.
It looks nice, and I would say that after that hard of a cut, it's gonna come in with some good color.
Yeah.
You know, I'm proud of what you did. You look great, and kudos to you, sir. There's nothing wrong with a hard cut every now and then, hitting a little reset on the beardo.
Yeah, hard cut. Got the soccer coaching videos. Hoping to find some stuff about pan and gold or some identity theft stuff here in the future. So really looking forward to it. Gentlemen, it's good to be here. I digress. Go on.
Yeah. So also our other co-host tonight is going to be the none other than the Green Doc, Mr. Ray Ito. How are you doing tonight, Ray?
I'm doing well, and I think I'm going to be doing even better by tomorrow or Monday because Matt Eagle has landed.
Ooh, tell everybody what you got, Ray.
Okay. I got a 1997 Toro GM 1000 with the groomer, and it is at the freight terminal right now in Honolulu.
That is what I am talking about.
Oh, and after I get off the show tonight and the after show, I'm going to be fitting up, Ryan, I think you're going to know what I'm talking about, the black bed bar with the razor steel bed knife.
Damn.
I have no idea what you're talking about, but I'm
excited. Ryan knows what it. No, Ryan knows what I'm talking about because I think Ryan it can't stand up right now.
Yeah, it's listen. Remember how you always say that Ray has found like if Ray had a Marshall stack of amplifiers behind him, if he was playing on the sold out arena tour, he would find a way to put a 15 knob right where everybody else has a 10. So kudos, Ray. I hope you sell out all the Big Island, or excuse me, all the Oahu dates right on the Ray Tour. Very excited for it. Can't wait.
Yeah. Kudos to you, Ray. That was bizarre. I'm sorry, I had some audio issues there. And gentlemen, our guest of honor tonight, drum roll, please. Jordan B.
What's up?
Good sir. Thank you for taking the time out of your life to come on here and hang out with a bunch of degenerates like us. Unfortunately, this classifies you as also a degenerate, so I apologize in advance because we know in your heart you're not one. However, externally, you have been reclassified.
Yeah,
Sir,
you're slumming tonight.
I'll fit right in.
Yeah, you got to tell everybody what you got in the glass right now because, I see you drinking and you got to share what's in it.
A little Maker's Mark and Dr. Pepper.
That's what I'm talking about. So you would be great friends with Castleberry because he has a thing with Dr. Pepper, right? Is Dr. Pepper your thing?
Oh, yeah. Mixed or unmixed. I'm a Dr. Pepper everywhere I go. That or sweet tea.
Really? Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Because if anybody can't hear it right now, that is a Southern accent we do hear from Yard Envy. So I am not
Just
the
a
only
little
one on the
bit.
show. And I'm as proud as I could possibly be that we've got another down southerner on the show with us. And he's not just from anywhere down south. Sir,
Oh yeah.
you got to tell everybody what state you're from.
South Mississippi.
Yes! We've got another one, boys. We've got another one. We've got Hungry Southerner. Now we've got Yard Envy. F you to the rest of everybody in the surrounding states. You don't know what you're missing out until you've spent a week in Mississippi, especially South Mississippi, which is completely different than North Mississippi. I will say that. But there are tinges that kind of bleed over and cross over that feel similar, right?
Yeah.
It's just one, you've got the ocean in play, and then the other one, you've got the Mississippi River in play, which is kind of like the ocean if you grow up on the Delta. It's one and the same, right? When I think of the Gulf of Mexico, I can't help but also think the Mississippi River. It's like it's the same thing. Sandy beaches, clear water, beautiful women in bikinis everywhere. I mean, that's Mississippi in general there. I usually can't.
No, our beaches are muddy. We go to Florida.
Because you go to Florida for the party, but you know that all the beaches in Mississippi are sandy. They're beautiful white sandy beaches. It doesn't get any better.
Oh yeah.
Than that. So how about that? Ray, Ryan, do y'all feel intimidated? Because you should.
Yeah, I don't even get to swim in the Gulf of Mexico. I got to go to a Great Lake. It's the best I can do, man. Sorry.
What is it, frozen like 60% of the year?
It doesn't freeze that often. Maybe like once every 10 years. But no, dude, it's nice here right now. It's like 80 degrees right here. I mean, it's been a warm fall. So I'm excited though because, why don't you tell Yard Envy, Mr. Envy here, how you got all up in his guts and got the crush on him. Why don't you lay out? You don't have to go through all the details, but
Yeah, no. I heard your accent, and I knew immediately that you were from Mississippi. I mean, I called it. Gentlemen, did I not say that? I said this
game recognized game.
Yeah, I said this guy's family. He's from Mississippi. Watch this shit. We got to get him on the show. Because I get it. This guy we're synonymous. We're one and the same here. So anyway, that was what prompted us to reach out and say, damn it, you can come on the show. So that way I'm not the only one backed into a corner over here swinging at anything getting in my way.
Yeah.
Listen, Ryan, get your shit to get you a beer, but you keep your shit together over there because we're on fair grounds tonight. You hear me? Yard Envy, are you into college football?
No, I'm not. But here recently, I've started getting into it, and I mean like last week. So.
Okay, are you an Ole Miss guy, Mississippi State? Where are you leaning?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to support the home teams. I haven't really picked one yet. I'm still shopping.
There you go.
No Aggies, though.
Thank you.
We can all agree on that.
Did anybody see the Twitter video the other day that said something along the lines of, how can this school still recruit? And it was a Texas A&M recruiting video.
Was that the kid that was talking or whatever, like the college kid talking? Yeah. It was weird.
It was weird.
Was it Yale practice?
No, it wasn't. It might have been at Yale practice. I don't know, but this dude had definitely either was beaten frequently by his parents or had done bath salts right before coming to the event because he was in another planet, man. Like that was weird. That's not turf related. Maybe we'll do that in the after show. That'd be a good after show content to watch and just pick this kid apart and let him know that he's not going to be in a safe space.
All right, so let's start talking about a little lawn stuff here. Somebody said Texas A&M is a cult. That's Colby. Yeah, I hear you, man. A lot of F the Aggies in the chat. So
Wow.
I'm glad there are people out there that are noble and great and productive in this world. So how did you find your way into the yard? And wait, hang on. Before you answer that, do you enjoy mowing your yard?
Oh, absolutely. Daily.
Okay, so that's one thing we don't have in common.
Daily.
I hate mowing my grass, but how did you get into your yard?
Man, I started like with my riding mower, like anybody else, just mowing in a circle, double cutting the grass clippings, whatever. But I was just cutting my grass, And then it all started with one Google search, which was, how do you get stripes in your grass? And then it was just Google search after Google search after YouTube, after Ryan Knorr, Connor Ward, lawn tips, the grass factor, just on and on, just soaking up information. And my wife makes fun of me when I get into a hobby, I just go all the way in. So, and I was like, I'm just gonna like make a YouTube channel and document what I do and help those people that think that regular grass is a grass type, and then here I am, because you get a lot of people that, well, what kind of grass do you have? Well, it's just regular grass, it's just regular. So
that's a true
I just started that journey. And learned as I went, and I'm still learning and got a long ways to go. I'm just 1.5 years, 2 years into it. So
it is that initial fire that gets lit, is sometimes for some people that are built like us, it burns really bright and really hot. It's like an oxyacetylene torch with a bunch of oxygen running to it, right? And for some people, it's just like running acetylene without any oxygen on it. You usually get these floaties that just kind of fly off everywhere, and that's where they are. So I'm glad you're part of the oxygenated oxyacetylene torch crew here. All right, so you made this search and you dived into it, and you're like, you know what? Here we go. We're in for the ride. Talk to us about some successes and some failures you had early on.
Well, the first thing I realized is that centipede Bahia grass mix will not stripe too well. So, so I decided to overseed with Bermuda, Scott's Golden Glove Bermuda. Oh, it was horrible. I can't believe I'm even saying this in public. But, and then I was like, so then that's when I found out you have to have a certain terp types stripe better and all that, because that was my initial goal, find, a way to get the stripes. And then, so I overseeded with that. And then it was so much prettier than that garbage that was out there. And then I found Quinclorac.
Oh no.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And I got rid of everything I didn't want and left the Bermuda. So, and then I was like, oh, this Bermuda sucks. So I overseeded the Golden Glove with perennial ryegrass and 3G from Seed Superstore. I'm not, that has nothing to do with me. Ordered it from there, put that out, and I was a professional at that point. I mean, I was like, I did it. I'm a pro, And and then I was like, okay, but this is gonna go away when it turns 117. So then I found me another strand of Bermuda and went with Arden 15, and that's where we are today, Arden 15.
Did you spray out the perennial ryegrass, or did you just let the heat take care of it?
Oh, I let the heat take care of it, which was a bad idea.
Yeah, tell me about that.
There's a video, and the thumbnail actually shows how horrible it was. The Bermuda would not come back, but it looked like just dead ryegrass. Spots under the trees still made it, but the ryegrass, I kept holding on to it because it was so pretty. I didn't want to let it go. And then whenever the heat finally killed it, there was like no Bermuda left. It was in spots. And that's when I had to back up and punt, you know.
I like the analogy. Okay,
that's one of the weird things about Bermuda grass and perennial ryegrass. I've had, I can't tell you how many negative situations of trying to let heat take care of perennial rye. It just, well, I would say I've had more negative experiences than I have had positive experiences. There have been on occasion from time to time where it seems to do like it's supposed to. The ryegrass dies and you're in the clear, you know, and you really do feel like a rock star. I noticed it more. Well, I didn't overseed a lot of perennial ryegrass in Knoxville. I ran into the issue. When I was in Memphis, when I was in Augusta, is where, you know, everybody wants green grass for the Masters, right? The whole city wants green grass for the Masters, and so a lot of people with warm season grass overseed with perennial rye, and everybody knew to overseed with perennial rye, but when you would sell the concept of spraying out the perennial rye, everybody was like, why would I do that? The heat's going to take care of it, right? And then what would happen is you would go through this extended period of time between, you know, May 31st and, we'll say Labor Day of just carnage, chaos. And no matter
Chernobyl.
Chernobyl has a different meaning amongst it.
No matter how hard you try and fertilize it out, you go out there and you put down 2 pounds in from urea and you try and burn it out or whatever, it continues to hang on. The Bermuda does not feel like it wants to creep into these areas, and you just go through this period of significant decline. And that was where it started my thinking there. And then, especially when I moved into Knoxville, where it's a little bit cooler climate than Augusta, it was even more pronounced. And, you know, it would check out in the summer, but it would like cause major, major issues to Bermuda grass. And that was when, you know, it really solidified my opinion that 100% you have to spray out perennial ryegrass, especially these new cultivars that are so hardy in even extreme situations. You know, this is not the perennial rye of the 80s. You know, this is a totally different deal here that can tolerate some pretty significant extremes. So interesting you ran into that in your area, because I know it's hot as hell where you are too.
Oh yeah. See, I was in a wormhole on YouTube at like 3 a.m. one time, and I was watching Pete with GCI Turf, and he said he had held on to his perennial too long and it affected his Bermuda. And he said he talked to Matt about it, and I didn't know if he was talking about you. Said that perennial ryegrass has a chemical reaction and will kind of poison the Bermuda and hold it back. Is that true?
Yes. Yeah. So Pete and I, we had a long conversation about this, and it's got a real funny name, Alleopathy, however you want to pronounce it. But the perennial ryegrass will emit, as a bit of a stress response, a compound that is toxic. And I don't think it's juglone. Do you remember the name of the compound, Ray? I looked it up at one time. Juglone is what comes from like walnut trees.
Walnut trees. I forgot what that compound is, but all I know about perennial rye is, believe it or not, I often suggest that to people that are transitioning from, say, one type of Bermuda or a Zoysia lawn into another variety of Bermuda next spring. And you know what I tell them to do?
Overseed with rye.
Overseed with rye in the winter. Put all the herbicides on the rye that the Bermuda and the Zoysia hate. And then come spring, smoke the rye, and you're able to establish your Bermuda or whatever into a clean area where the allelopathy has almost taken care of whatever you don't want, because allelopathy, I think, against zoysia is even stronger than the allelopathy that rye exhibits against Bermuda, because I keep on hearing about how if you want to jack up your zoysia lawn, overseed with rye in the fall, it might never come back out of it next year.
100%. I saw that in Georgia more times than I care to admit, of people who thought it was a great idea to overseed their zoysia with perennial ryegrass, and the lawn just never did come back. You may see it come back along the edges of the driveway and the impermeable surfaces, right, that attract a lot of heat, but throughout the center of the yard, you may have a total of 10, 15 square feet of grass left out of 3,000 square feet. It does not play well with zoysia grass at all. And this is a good tidbit and a good learning topic of conversation here for people who have zoysia grass that get this wild hair up their ass that they want to oversee it with perennial ryegrass. Do not do it. Especially
invest in green paint. Invest in green
start
paint.
Moving into,
that's my word.
Centipede or St. Augustine. Don't do that either. I had a long conversation with Paul Outlaw with a guy who had some St. Augustine that they overseeded with ryegrass, and I think that was like 2 years ago. Paul, if you're listening, text me. I think it was like 2 years ago. And when we were talking about it this spring, I think he said it still was too jacked up. Like it just has not recovered really at all yet. So don't do it. It works with Bermuda grass, and you got to understand, you got to spray it out early. By early, I'm saying before the Bermuda greens up. If you don't, then you're only digging your hole deeper into the growing season of Bermuda.
Yeah.
I wonder if that could be correlated with growing degree days, when to appropriately spray out ryegrass. It's kind of technical, but surely there's a way to do that, right?
Soil temps, maybe?
I think soil temps would still be too variable.
I think you might have to
think on that keystone. Huh? Go ahead.
Explain growing degree. Explain GDD for us idiots.
Growing degree days is going to be the accumulation of days over a certain average temperature. And as long as you are over that temperature, it correlates with a certain amount of potential growth that occurs. If that makes sense, kind of.
So it's like it's like math, right? It's cumulative. Is that right?
Yes. Cumulative, yes.
Yes.
So an expression
like
of
interest.
Yeah. It's a way to express heat energy, right? That we gain over the course of a growing season, right? So starting with the first day that we cross over the threshold of these base temperatures, and those might be 32 degrees Fahrenheit, it could be 50 degrees Fahrenheit. Some are even higher depending on what type of plant material growing. But the whole point being is that you can basically use a calendar here. J-Pink, I'll send you a quick thing here real quick. But there's a whole thing called the phenological calendar, right? So phenology is the study of emergence based on certain heating degree days, or growing degree days, I should say, for certain things to happen. So like maple buds to break, or certain insects to emerge, things like that. So we can time these things up and have a reasonable expectation of when they might take place in our environments, our local environments, right? Because, obviously southern Mississippi, you're going to heat up way sooner than we will up here in central Ohio. And so, you kind of see this progression from south to north, right? As we heat up, and then as things start to go dormant, right, it goes from the other direction. So, I don't know. I think I'm sure it could be done. I think some of it would depend on cultivar too, right? Because you're going to have cultivars that green up earlier than others. So modeling this all out and just saying, sort of stereotypically or generally across the board, it's this, I think may be difficult.
Yeah, because Tahoma is going to have a totally different green up. Tahoma or Tif will be totally different than Common or 419.
Go get you some Vaymont. How about that? See.
I haven't heard that name. I haven't heard that name in ages because Vaymont was old Sportsfield Bermuda. That was an old variety.
What are you talking about?
You never had Vaymont Bermuda grass? You ever seen that, Matt?
No. Hell no.
Oh, yeah. That's West Virginia, North Carolina, the Piedmont, all down there. Yeah. Yeah. It's a real thing, dog. So, no, for yard envy's sake, like, yeah, spraying this stuff out, like, to me, it's a no-brainer. I look at this as a plant health thing, right? Where there's a certain point where you got to cut the rye loose. You got to let it go. Take old Yeller out in the woods, right? Put a bullet in her, right? And that's just what's got to happen. So you keep that, those sulfonylureas. Ray, what do you think about that? Is there? And I know Matt's talked about it before too. But if for you guys, you take some, dipshit like me who's growing Bermuda grass in Ohio just for the, I wouldn't say the fun of it, but it has a useful purpose, versus somebody down in southern Mississippi. Does it change your selection on the sulfonylurea you're going to use to go ahead and spray that out, or you don't care? There you go.
I just send it, and in fact, I got to share with you a tank mix that I applied not too long ago that involved green paint, Celero, a little bit of Celsius, and some sulfentrazone. And you know what my reasoning for doing that was? So that as the nutsedge and crabgrass died, they wouldn't see the discoloration because of the green paint.
Yeah, I do think. Go ahead.
And the reason why I'm even bringing this up is, if you're worried about yellowing out and then killing the rye before the Bermuda has had a chance to truly, wake up and come up, I could see spiking green paint with something like Monument or MSM and just sending it. So while the rye is dying, you wouldn't know the difference because everything is green from the paint.
Man, well, there you go. I mean, that's a fully involved herbicide application, and well thought out too.
To tap in on that, I will say this is everyone I know who has sprayed metsulfuron methyl recently as a standalone product to transition out ryegrass has 100% not been happy with it. Again, other people I've talked to that used to be able to spray metsulfuron methyl and have a real nice, easy, clean transition are not seeing that anymore, especially over the last 3 years, 4 years time frame. Why that is the case, I don't know. Is it resistance? I don't know. Is it newer cultivars? I don't know. But it is an interesting observation that I get a whole host of emails about and complaints about as the years have gone on. Now, am I a one herbicide application kind of guy? No. I come from the school of Ray, right? The school of Green Doc that is, you spray things to kill them, not to piss them off, right? And so, it's when you're taking out a bad guy, they teach to double tap at minimum, right? So it's same principle when you're taking out something that is non-desirable. You have to at least double tap it, if not triple tap it. That's just one to be incredibly sure that if I'm putting bullets into someone that they're dropping. Why am I bringing up death?
I don't know. I was just gonna say. I was gonna make it. I had a great joke planned there about you should ask Ray about how he breaks up his girlfriends, and then you went into this death talk and just ruined it because then I was gonna make Ray look like some damn domestic violence serial killer, man. Like,
This escalated quickly.
Real buzzkill,
this,
man.
This escalated fast, didn't it, man?
I think we all need to have. I think we all need to have a Dr. Pepper and a smile here and just chill. All right.
Yeah.
Might need to scrape my tongue on that one.
Yeah, I think so. But Matt, you know what I think might possibly be happening is the ryegrass varieties are being bred to be even hardier than the random, non-named cultivars that we used to have 10, 20 years ago. I think they're bred to be a lot tougher. And you know what? I can foresee the time when this might be a boon to people actually maintaining perennial rye as their desired turf. Imagine perennial rye capable of tolerating up to a ½ ounce per acre of MSM 60DF. Imagine how wonderful that would be.
This is no joke right now. Like, so that's a couple years ago. We had a field that we were gonna redo, but it was kind of thin, and we went ahead and seeded it with a named cultivar, a very prominent one. I'm not going to say which one, but came in great. They played spring sports on it. We renovated over the summertime. Well, we go to spray this thing out in the summertime, right? And go out at, I think, 64 fluid ounces to the acre on glyphosate. Everything else dead. POA dead. Kentucky bluegrass dead. All this stuff. This ryegrass is just sitting there chilling, like not doing anything. At a ½ a gallon an acre. Oh yeah. So I call the seed seed company, and I'm like, listen, you got to level with me here. Like, I just straight up, no, not to go down your road again, but I did what needed to be done. This was like going to the electric chair, and the person comes out with a pulse, and I just got to ask the question, what's going on? They're like, oh yeah, we've seen that before. I'm like, you have? They're like, yeah, we don't publicize that, but we've seen it before. We've seen rates, about that rate, and nothing happening to it. So I had to go out and do 2 more sequential apps to finally kill it off. So I think the other thing you're hearing, or the other thing you're seeing too, is like, so there was Ray, you're right. I've talked to multiple seed companies about this in terms of the days where you use cheap, crappy transitional rye, and it looked like it would just look like crap. People said, well, no, we need it to be greener, or we need it to be more disease tolerant for a winter play, stronger, this, that, the other thing. Well, in doing so, you made it harder to kill. You made the Jean-Claude Van Damme, right, of perennial ryegrasses. Okay, or no, it was Steven Seagal that was hard to kill. I take that back. He was hard to kill,
Steven Seagal, or else even Bruce Willis. Die Hard.
Yeah,
Die Hard.
No, the movie Hard to Kill was Steven Seagal. So, we were talking about pulling hair earlier. He's the one guy you don't pull the hair with. It gets rough, So,
don't mess with Steven Seagal. He's a Tennessee guy, right?
Are you serious?
I think he's got a house in Germantown.
Really?
Which is in Memphis.
Well, clearly he needs to get a place down in southern Mississippi. I mean,
yeah, he had a mansion there that he had trouble selling.
I can see Steven Seagal being neighbors with like Brett Favre or something like that. Seems legitimate. So
I heard he was a sheriff in New Orleans.
Yes,
Seagal.
Yeah. He did get involved in law enforcement, something like that.
He
was an actual sheriff
there too. I'm gonna look this up.
He was an actual sheriff.
He had some crazy stuff going on, I thought. Anyhow, but the point is like, so no, Ray, it swung that way that they had these, these real super juiced up ryegrasses, and now alongside of that, they're starting to try and breed these intermediate ryes, these transitional ryes that look really good, but they're easy to kill. So that's how far we've come. But you think about this now, like a normal overseed rate. Let's just say, not the Matt Martin baseball field, 25 pounds per thousand, just full send. Matt's out there with the cedar in the fall. He looks like Larry Enticer on a snowmobile hitting a jump, about to wreck himself in the air, right? I'm just talking about like a normal, that's oh wow, hell yeah. So let's just say you go out there at 10 pounds per thousand, pretty light overseed rate these days, but that's going to be like That's $20 right there in seed per 1,000 square feet. So, we're about $2 a pound right now, pretty close to it on ryegrass. So 20 times, I'm spending $870 an acre rate just in seed, and then I'm gonna go kill it, right? That's getting wild. Even if you're a homeowner, that's getting wild. So I don't know. It's tough. The thing I wonder too is, and Matt, you would know better than I, is if you had like one of these more cold tolerant Bermuda grasses, what do you think that would be like in southern Mississippi? Like, I'm sure it would go fully dormant for a period, but how long, and what do you think that would be like? What do you think the transition would be like if it was not overseeded?
Oh, I think it'd be incredible.
I would love to see that.
Because I know a lot of people with Tiff Tuff in Atlanta, and they just absolutely adore it. So a friend of mine does a lot of commercial work in Atlanta, and everywhere that he has Tiff Tuff installed, he said it's at least a month established compared to the other Bermuda grasses, the older cultivars. A month.
A month earlier to wake up, or a month earlier to go dormant, or what, or both?
Yeah, to wake up, and about a month to go dormant too. It'll tolerate multiple frosts before it ends up fully shutting down.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen that on Tahoma for sure. Like that first frost. I'm not going to say it doesn't do anything, but it's like it's still very, very green. I mean, I'll give you an example. I mean, here, we should be. I'll see what the average temperature is, but we were green, 80% or better green until the first week of November in Ohio. So that's what makes me think like, okay, hey, I know, that Mr. Envy wants to talk about, hey, what should I be working towards, right? What's the goal? And, clearly you got to go get some more of that Golden Gloves from Scott's. I mean, really, stock price is going up, and we want to see it go higher, boys. We want to see it go through the roof.
Yeah.
But what did
this
you
Arden 15 is holding on. It's holding on till December.
Okay.
I mean, hey, tell me what y'all think about Arden 15, because that's one of my questions. Is I'm thinking about killing all this too.
Ray, why don't you give Mr. Envy the background on what the pros and cons, the give and take of improved common versus a hybrid Bermuda grass, especially a vegetative hybrid Bermuda grass. Let's start there.
Okay. Your common Bermudas, even your improved commons, no matter
like Arden 15,
no matter what they say about them, they still have the growth habit of common Bermuda, which is a lot of space in between the inner nodes and high vertical growth rate. And because let me ask you this, sir, what do you want out of your lawn as far as height of cut goes? What do you actually want it? Because right now I'm dealing with a half inch. Okay. Let me tell you about Bermuda grass from seed. Half inch can be done with it, but it takes a lot more effort to keep it nice at a half an inch versus if you had something like Tahoma 31 or one of the newer vegetatively propagated hybrids, because for one thing,
iron cutter.
Yes, when you're dealing with Bermuda from seed, you're going to be seeing a lot of seed heads. You're going to be seeing a lot of vertical growth. And in addition to that, you'll notice that once you get it down to a half an inch or shorter, you're walking a tightrope between scalping it, thinning it out, and actually having it look green. I mean, because I'm working with somebody right now where he has a small area of common Bermuda, and he's asking me why I don't mow that as low as the rest of his turf, which is something else. And that's because I know that if I get carried away with that common Bermuda, he's basically going to be looking at brown grass, and it's going to look at brown every time I mow it. So that's where with a vegetatively propagated variety like, say, Tahoma 31, you can even do that at a 1/4 inch or 0.2 inches, and it'll still look good.
That's what I want.
It can be done. Well, then you know what? All I'm going to tell you is refer back to what I said about keeping perennial rye over the winter, and then you dose that perennial rye with a combination of triclopyr and ethifumicate as your wintertime weed control. And then come spring, you finally, terminate that perennial rye by any means necessary. And then you establish your Toma 31 or iron cutter, or whatever you can get your hands on, because I would even go so far as to even want Tifgrand if you can get a hold of it, because I know Tifgrand loves to be at green height.
Yeah, and that's the big thing there is these seeded varieties, while they can tolerate lower heights of cut, they don't necessarily like it, right? So what you would notice is at a 1/2 inch versus 3/4 of an inch, you get two totally different aesthetics across the lawn. It looks like a completely different yard. Versus if you did have a vegetated variety, you're not going to see much difference versus 3/4 of an inch and 1/2 an inch. And then, really where you're starting to test the limits of that vegetated variety, depending on the type, is going to be 1/2 an inch to 1/4 of an inch or even lower. Then, you're starting to test some of the limits there of what that grass is genetically bred to be able to tolerate. And you might start running into some weird things where you've got to do weird things to keep it looking at its peak, right? So as long really you have to cut to the genetic tolerances of the turf type you have, and you can attempt to push it lower. Just understand with every degree you take it lower, you're adding a degree of complexity, a degree of risk, a degree of unknowns, and just potential mishaps that may take place that's completely beyond your control, that you just got to chalk it up to, well, I was doing what was beyond the limit of the grass, and I saw, I failed, we'll try it again next season, kind of sort of deal there, right? So it just ups your chances of success. So I'm not going to say, go out, kill everything, and go sprig your lawn with whatever. It's not necessary. You can still have a nice lawn with Arden 15. You can still have a nice lawn with Common Bermuda. I've got it. I love it. I think it's fantastic. It tolerates anything I want to put on it. Literally anything I want to put on it, except a couple of growth regulators. That's neither here nor there. But it can tolerate a lot of that stuff, right? So it's us talking out loud about it right now. It's kind of helping me form the opinion that one of the early determinants of whether or not you want to go with a vegetatively propagated variety of Bermuda grass or a seeded variety Bermuda grass deals more in with, well, do you want to take it lower than, say, 3/4 of an inch? And if you do, now you've fallen into the sodded or vegetated, a sprigged variety of Bermuda grass instead of a seeded variety, because you're just not going to be able to do that with an improved common.
What about the dwarfs?
Dwarfs.
Oh boy.
Okay. Okay. Let's talk about dwarfs. Let's talk about the true ultra dwarfs, because
there is a way.
That gets into a different level of complexity, because with an ultra dwarf, that is what I call the ultimate commitment. And this is the commitment you make when, say, you bring in something like Champion or Mini Verde or even Sunday Ultra Dwarf. Imagine growing on a sand base, number one. That's almost required. Number two, regular grooming or verticutting. Number three, regular core aeration, removal of cores, and then refilling those holes with sand. And the reason why you need to do that is because if left to their own devices, the true ultra dwarfs will form such a accumulation of organic matter and thatch that they will literally kill themselves. Whereas something like, say, your TIFF Grand, and even to a certain extent your TIFF Green or your Tifton 328, those are considered semi-dwarf Bermudas that I've seen those grasses taken very low, but to me, they're a lot more forgiving in terms of maintenance and management needs. And I'm just saying
that might fit my
because
schedule too. So
yeah, because I can tell you that I maintain TIFF Green on a lawn bowling green. I'm not there every day, but I can create an acceptable playing surface with minimal inputs by comparison. So that's just something to consider. I mean, on the other hand, I know that if we went, mini Verdi or Champion or Sunday, I'd be there every day, 8 hours a day.
How big
Yeah,
of an area would you want to do it?
So the front yard on the right side of my driveway is 7,000 square foot. The left side is 5,000. So I probably don't need the high maintenance stuff. Probably mild maintenance, something that because of my schedule, it could only be mowed every 3 days. So I would need something that could deal with that, and then I could give it good attention for 2 weeks, and then it could just get mows for 2 weeks. So
to put like a realistic idea that if you were going to go with a dwarf variety, first, and DeMay, you tell me if this is a crazy idea here, but you're basically going to have to rebuild this with on a sand-based growing season. So I'm not saying cap it. I'm saying let's excavate out, install some drainage. Let's do a real deal elevated green in order to make that a reality.
I'm going to say is the best bet overall is going to be something like a Tiff Tuff, a Tahoma, an Iron Cutter, something like that. That's
what it sounded like.
And I don't know. I mean, I think you're going to be happy with just about any of those choices. I don't know that it's going to be really splitting hairs. And also too, like, you're like 800 miles due south of me as a crow flies. So like, I don't really know. Right. If I had a YouTube channel, I could make all kinds of wild assertions and prognostications about how it's going to work for you, and links in the description below. But I'm not going to do that. So I would research it. I'd also look and see if you do have some growers nearby. And I honestly in Mississippi couldn't tell you for sure. Pike Creek over in Alabama might be your best bet. See here what they're growing. They're in Adele, Georgia. Who am I thinking of? Who's in Alabama? All right, I'm gonna have to look that up. But it might be worth just saying, hey, can I come over and snag just like a piece of sod and stick it in the yard? Unless you're gonna just go full send and just do something and plan ahead for this next year. But in my mind, it's if you got some time to kill and you're just kind of figuring stuff out still and getting ready and gearing up, I just get a little bit, a pallet. Half a pallet if they'll cut it for you, and stick it somewhere in the yard of whatever you think you might want to go with, and just see how it manages, maintains, goes through a whole growing season, all that kind of stuff, and then take it from there. What do we got here?
Okay.
So, and I bring that up about like you would have to convert it to a real golf green like growing system. Is one to understand the complexity, and then also the cost that would go into it as well, right? So installation cost, you may be upwards of $5,000-$6,000, and then yearly maintenance cost just for that piece of it may be somewhere around like $1,200 a year, just in terms of the everything that would go into it and the weird one-off specialty products that you may need to buy for certain scenarios. And in the event you had to run a fungicide program on it, it's going to be significantly more expensive, because to get the kind of protection you need, you're going to have to run some SDHIs and some complex chemistry there. It's just an added layer of complexity that probably just doesn't make sense unless you want to convert it into a damn golf green, like a fresh. Like, you've got the budget and you've got the staff to turn it into a golf green kind of sort of deal, right?
I wouldn't do it.
Yeah, we're not going to do that. Yeah.
Don't.
I'm not going to do it.
Guess who is maintaining 16,000 square feet of TIF 328 on dirt? Guess who's doing it? And height of cut is under 0.2 inches.
That's you.
Yes. And I can do it because basically I'm anticipating what the grass is going to do under various conditions, and I can do it because I understand certain things about growing extremely low cut grass on dirt. Because in other words, I think I'm, dealing in that world of how to maintain what's known in the business as a push-up green. Right, Ryan?
Yeah, and not something that you want to do with dwarf Bermuda grass.
Yeah, you can't really do that with ultra dwarf. If anything, the semi dwarfs are more suited to, that kind of management scheme. It can be done, but you just have to then really be in tune with your grass and, just know what you're getting into. I will say though, Ryan, that to deal with this grass, I do have an emergency kit for it, Ryan. I do have one. And that emergency kit,
2.5 gallons to the acre of glyphosate?
No. Consists of Exterix, Lexicon, and 3336, and Aliette.
See, this is where I'm talking about moving into specialty chemistries. Like,
all at once?
This is not stuff you're going to see out there advertised
Just
to homeowner
on hand
to acquire. You're going to have to get an account rep in order to be able to purchase these things. Are any of those restricted use? They're not, are they?
No, they're not restricted use, at least not in the South. Although I know that if Yard Envy was on the East Coast, I think the thiophanate and, in fact, no, wait a minute. Almost all of the fungicides except for propiconazole would be state RUP. Once you get into like the those East Coast states, like say Maine, Vermont, and even New York.
Did we scare you away from it? Does it sound like a task?
Oh yeah.
Okay, good.
Oh yeah. I was done with it like as soon as you said $5,000 worth of drainage and sand, and I was done with that. I was like, let's back it up a little bit.
Yeah, because I'm going to tell you that for most varieties of Bermuda,
hang on, let Ray twist the knife real quick. Go ahead, Ray.
You can actually maintain them very well at about 3/8 to 5/16 of an inch. Not quite green height, but still very nice. And, I consider that maintainable on a home lawn type situation. The only other factor is how good a mower you have. I mean, that's just That's just actually what I've gotten into
let's talk about
because
equipment.
Yeah, let's talk about mowers because.
Oh, here we go.
Oh,
I see Union Jack. Is that a Alliette?
Outlet.
Yeah, outlet. Yeah,
That's an outlet mower.
Okay, so
Yeah, I've got
you can get some real mowing done.
Yeah, this got all the cartridge system with a scarifier, the verticutter cartridges, and 10 blade reel and all that. So
you can do some mowing with that for sure. My only question is, how is that going to hold up mowing that much Bermuda long term? And the reason why I ask is because I know for a fact that a lot of these import mowers, they're actually purpose built for mowing frequently mowed cool season grasses. Like rye is a soft grass, hint is a very soft grass. Bermuda is a little bit, more on the durable side, and then you want durability, then let's talk zoysia. That is an extremely durable grass. And from what I've seen of zoysia, oh, by the way, Ryan, I had a unique experience yesterday.
What's that?
Oh, Lord.
I was out mowing about 5,000 square feet of Xeon.
Oh,
trigger warning, Matt.
Yeah.
Okay,
I'm gonna take my headphones off. Hang on.
And I was having to do that with a Jacobson 526.
Oh, other one's coming off.
Okay, yeah. Okay, and
that's gonna be a no for me, dog.
No, and here's the thing: I was able to do it, but I noticed that mower was not up for the job like how my properly modified GM 1000 would be.
Well, Zoysia is a completely different animal altogether, and Xeon is just garbage.
Hopefully, while that was all taking place, Sheila had come out of the passenger seat and was running the rotary scissors to trim out the lawn for you while you were doing that. I hope she was.
And that's a callback to everybody for Burn and Return. Check it out, the podcast Burn and Return on all your favorite podcast apps. You can hear the story about Sheila.
Okay, and then thereafter, as soon as I was done with that, I went over to the bowling green and I was mowing the bowling green at 0.15, but there were a couple of patches of zoysia hanging on in the bowling green, and when the Jacobson hit those patches, I noticed the engine starting to stall and strain.
I believe it. I don't think that Allet would have any issue with Bermudas, though.
No, it wouldn't.
It's striping it pretty good.
Oh yeah. I think that's gonna be fine. And if it shits the bed at 8 years down the road, well, you got your absolute money out of it. But I mean, really, the only thing you have to do is put a new bed knife, and worst case, it's got a Honda motor on it. That motor ain't gonna damn die. Maybe you replace the internals or anything. So that thing.
Yeah, if you can take care of the reel and the bed knife, right, and know when those wear out and they have a lifespan, 12,000 square feet. If you're legitimately mowing every day, or one out of every 3 days or whatever it is, I think it's going to last a good long time. And I'm not sure what their service is like in terms of like when that help educate me, because I'm a dipshit when it comes to this, right? When that reel needs to be ground, do you send it back somewhere? Do you have to take it somewhere local? Like, I don't understand how Allet and some of these, I know, like, what's the other thing I'm thinking of here, Ray?
Swordman.
You can, send that back to get ground. But what do you do?
Yeah, I haven't dug into that.
Okay.
I haven't dug into that yet. I've just, after I backlap it to the max, I just buy another one.
Yeah.
Okay, you know what, Yard Envy? You are almost like me in that with my Toro, once
Yeah.
the reel is beyond the point of a relief grind and another backlap, it's called new bed knife, new reel. That's okay. I mean, I just I don't worry about it. And then for you though, I don't know how Allet handles their cutting units as far as is the bed knife detachable from the cutting unit?
It has
Because
to be. It has to be.
Yeah.
because
Oh yeah.
because that if you're backlapping regularly, technically the bed knife wears out before the reel does. Because by the way, guys,
Yeah.
I typically change my bed knife 3 to 4 times a year.
Wow. But you
3 to
cut a
4
lot,
times
Ray. You cut a lot.
I
Well, and
don't see a problem with that.
it's also the kind of grass. No, and it's also the kind of grass that I'm cutting, Matt.
Yeah, that too.
Okay.
That too. I'll give you that.
Okay.
I'll give you that.
About 10,000 square feet of Xeon, plus another half acre of El Toro, and then half acre of Emerald, and then another, less than half an acre of Bermuda.
Yeah.
The Bermuda
That's a lot of
Bermuda
cutting.
hurts the mower. The Bermuda hurts the mower the least. The Bermuda, wears out the reel the least. So that's the takeaway point for you, Yard Envy, is that because you have Bermuda, you basically have the easy grass to deal with. And Matt, take off your headphones, because I'm also going to tell you that if I had a centipede lawn, I would be running the reel on it, and I'd smoke the bahia out of it.
Real quick, has anybody seen these characters that are real mowing St. Augustine and absolutely slaying it? It looks amazing.
Actually, Matt, I get to see that here in Hawaii.
Yeah.
I get to see that here. I get to see it here, and you know how that happens?
I get it. Y'all got a link?
No, it is because
I'll find one after the show and send it to you. These guys are killing it. It looks unbelievable at a 1 inch, 1 1/4 inch real mode St. Augustine. I was so impressed.
Matt, I got to tell you that what I've told everybody is that the 3 U.S. manufacturers of reel mower, the McLean, the True Cut, and the Kel Trimmer. Did you know that they purpose built their mowers to mow St. Augustine at approximately 1 inch? That's literally what their machines are designed for. But I've seen reel cut St. Augustine too, and the way that it happens is somebody has St. Augustine underneath a tree or a shady area, and because they're mowing the zoysia at about 3/4 to a half an inch in the rest of the yard, they don't bother to raise the height of cut very much, and they just go over to the St. Augustine, and it happens to look acceptably good. However, in some cases, the zoysia wimps out, and the St. Augustine ends up taking over the rest of the yard.
Let me ask you this. So you're like for real deal considering smoking it all out and going with the vegetative Bermuda grass, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna probably do it in spring.
Okay. So as far as, do you have a good kind of a step-by-step scenario that you feel like you're going to follow to do that?
I feel like it's the same thing I did with the Arden 15. Just glyphosate it, water it, glyphosate it, dethatch it. I rent a dethatcher, billy goat, and I just tear it up, just maul the dirt, just get everything out of it.
Rip it.
And then,
yeah,
I'm talking about like 2 inches of fluff on top of the ground of just topsoil and just debris. And then get up what I can. And then No, this is what I did for the Arden 15. At that point, I don't know if there's another process that we need to look at for sprigging or plugging or whatever route I'm going to go.
Would you, or you're not going to sod it?
I wouldn't do that.
A complete sod? No, I would probably plug, like do a massive plug job and just grow it in.
Sure.
Sprig it.
Unless y'all suggest otherwise.
Sprig it if you can. And Ryan is kind of the king of sprigging projects here. He's probably done more in the last year or 2 years that I've done probably my whole life. So Ryan, let me ask you this: prior to or post application of sprigs, are you familiar with sprigging and what those projects look like? Yard
Me?
envy? Oh. No, yard envy.
No. I've seen hayfields that were sprigged with Bermuda, but
forage Bermuda.
I've just kind of, and I've kind of done it myself in some bare spots. From whenever I had some long pieces, I'd try to poke it with just like one sprig at a time, with a screwdriver in the ground, tap it in with my foot, to try to fill in a spot. I've done that.
Yep.
Okay.
So effectively the same thing, but just on a little bit larger scale. My question would be, DeMay, is the necessity of sand in a sprig project. Is it there? If it's not there, what would your method of establishment be?
It's still sprig it. I think the biggest thing when you go to do this, number one is going to be irrigation, right? So if you're not going to do in-ground irrigation over 12,000 square feet, that's fine, but you have to have means to water it. So if that means dragging a hose out there, I would not want to move a hose. That would be a considerable pain in the ass. I would look at like some temporary stuff. So just above ground PVC that you can detach and, get rid of it when you're all said and done, at least growing in, and go from there. So irrigation piece is critical because if you don't have water, you can't sprig. I mean, you can't. So that's number one. Number two, if you're on soil, the only thing that gets a little bit tricky from time to time is going to be when you need to go out there and push some fertilizer in those first, say 4 weeks or so. You can get by without having to do it, but you got to dry it out sufficiently that you can take a walk spreader across it to actually put the fertilizer out without taking up mud on the tires and all that kind of stuff. And that can be a little bit problematic, but not the end of the world. So the only thing that would be tricky, and I'll ask Ray this, Ray, we're in residential turf on a sprig project. I'm without my favorite tool, right? Oxidizon Round Star. So what do I do?
G.
Okay. What do I do?
Oh man!
Real quick. So at Yard Envy, Ronstar is a pre-emergent, kind of like prodiamine, kind of like Dimension or Dithiopyr, right? That you use to prevent summer annual grasses from coming in. So in your case, it's going to be goosegrass, Dallas grass, crabgrass, right?
Because that's a lot of fresh dirt stirred up.
Yes, it's a fantastic product. However, it is not legal in residential turf. So that leads us into a scenario that I'll be honest with you, I don't know the answer. You hear that, YouTube?
Okay.
You hear that, Turf Truth? I just said I don't know.
You know what? I'm about to make heads explode.
Oh boy, here we go.
No,
you get a rubber on first.
Yeah, because I'm one of the few lawn and landscape people here in Hawaii who complied with that restriction regarding Ronstar and residential turf all along. However, and this is even in recently sprigged, Zoysia, Bermuda, St. Augustine, etc. And here's how I did it.
Oh boy.
A week or two after sprigging, first application is Simazine at approximately a pound per acre. Yep.
You, sir, have some brass ones.
I just don't have the balls to do that, Ray. We've talked about it before, and I get risky, but
wow,
that's risk I don't have in me.
Okay,
yeah, I don't think I could do that.
You know what? What I've seen out of that is because I'm working on actual dirt or heavy clay, I don't have a problem with it. But if somebody is on mostly sand, I'm going to tell them don't. And the reason why I'm going to tell them don't is because that simazine needs to bind to the clay in order to not leach down and get into the roots of the turf excessively. But barring that, say somebody didn't drop down that 1 pound of simazine and 8 ounces of Banville. Okay, say somebody didn't, and now they have things coming out. Week 3 or 4 is when I start applying a combination of Revolver, Celsius, and Carfentrazone. And what that will do is that's going to fry out anything that has emerged, in that time frame, and it'll do it with minimal damage to the desirable Bermuda.
And
I think you can get
right
away
now,
with this.
Yard Envy is
go
ahead and budget for the Revolver and Celsius. Start making plans for it now, because when you see the price of it, you're going to have a coronary. If you can get in on a group buy with somebody and just score as much as you need, I understand it's an expensive acquisition, but it is a lifesaver in terms of performance. If you don't want to go that route, an alternate that is a little bit more affordable on the cost per acre rate, but has a little bit less Revolver, so not quite the same level of efficacy, would be Tribute Total.
I was just going to say that, Matt.
Yeah, a little expensive on the cost per acquisition, but a bit more palatable than getting
and you know what?
Revolver
That leads
Celsius.
that leads me to another point, is that I forgot the fourth component of that post-sprig tank mix. I normally end up adding either Monument or Certainty to that 3 herbicide combination, because I'm also dealing with emerged nutsedge and or Kailinga in the sprigging.
Yard Envy, do you deal with a fair amount of nutsedge?
Oh yeah.
Oh, do you? Okay.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
So then you know what, sir? What I see in your future when you sprig is literally a bottle of Tribute Total and a bottle of Quicksilver. I mean, you might as well just accept that as your fate, because, by the way, even when I, nuked lawns with Banville and Simazine, the only thing that didn't take care of was the nutsedge. That still broke through, Matt. As toxic as that was, the nutsedge still broke through that. So,
yeah,
that's my answer.
Yeah, and I was kind of putting this down. The Simazine is, here's the thing: if you are not confident in your application technique, if you're not confident in your equipment, if you're not confident in your nozzle selection, I would steer you to be a little bit leery of that. That's something that comes with significant experience, calibration. Yeah, no other real way to sugarcoat that. It's different.
Speaking of that, right? It's a good segue here, real quick, into what sprayer are you running, Yard Envy?
It's nothing fancy. I bought it at the co-op. It's a
Is it a pump sprayer or a battery powered one?
I believe it's battery powered. Revolt, I think, is the name of it.
Okay.
It's nothing fancy. It's like $150.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So those, I think in our study of those, the pressure that comes out of those kind of prepackaged or default right out of the factory relative to the nozzle and tip size that's on there, you can get a lot of drift, and they give you some suggested rate or carrier volumes of what you should be getting out of there and everything like that. Have you been able to calibrate that sprayer and verify, like, hey, I guess tell me that is like, if you put 2-3 gallons in it, like you're for sure like, hey, I know I'm going to cover 5,000 square feet, whatever it might be. Are you confident in the calibration? Okay, good deal.
Yeah.
Good deal.
Okay.
Yeah, the only other thing we see is just the kind of the drift. I'm going to see. There was a picture.
I had one picture. Yeah.
Yeah, let me pull this up. J Pink,
and this
go
is
ahead
where
and show that picture what we're talking.
Nozzle selection can be the name of the game, because you got to remember when with drift, that's a pretty good depiction there.
That's drifty. That's some Tokyo drift.
Yeah.
Well, that's a lot of the material
crop
you're applying is
dusting.
lost. And so especially if you're spending, money that's going to cost, $150 an acre to apply, you don't want to lose 20%, 30% of your application that you're applying to just moving off target, right? Because effectively what you end up losing is the correct amount of active ingredient that's required to kill the weeds. And then you get a lackluster response from it. And you're like, well, shit, I just spent, $340 on a bottle of Tribute Total, and I did not get the kill I was expecting out of it. And that's where, these backpack sprayers, in my opinion, it is one. Is this the one you have right here? Is this the Revolt? Okay.
Okay.
It's absolutely critical to be a little bit rigorous and be a little bit over the top when it comes to nozzle selection, because your nozzle selection on these types of pieces of equipment can make or break you, and especially when it comes to managing drift and maximizing that dollar spent to return on investment in terms of the kill you get when you do make an application.
As well as
there's a lot of graduating I got to do. I'm wanting to graduate in grass, mower. I'm wanting to move up. I'm at that point where I've hit my rev limiter at where I'm at right now, and like this is perfect timing for me to come on here. Exactly. I want to go to the next level.
Yeah,
because
and you know what? Okay, well, go ahead, Ray. You say this, and then I got a point. Go ahead.
Because here's what I'm going to tell you about all of these expensive and potentially risky applications. The only reason why they don't, alarm me or weird me out is because I have confidence in, number one, the application is not going to drift. And number two, I'm able to consistently apply a set amount per area every time and do it very easily. Because, for me, if somebody told me that they had 10,000 or so square feet of lawn or turf to maintain, I'd be looking at a certain type of equipment, something that enabled me to literally spray it at the rate of a gallon per 1,000 square feet and do that easily, taking only a minute to cover that 1,000 square feet.
Man, it'd be nice.
Yeah. Only thing is that there's a certain investment involved, because I use a spray rig like that where my joke is
here we go.
5, 5 gallons, 5,000 square feet, 5 minutes.
Wham! Show it to him. Can we get a picture of Ray's sprayer?
I got it. 1 second.
Dealing with working with the backpack he has right now, what nozzle do you guys think he should go ahead and transition to? Because it would not be expensive.
I would think. I mean, this is just me thinking out loud, because I don't know, and I've not played around with these electric backpacks to really know, right, what the pressure output is. But Ray, I would think like an AI nozzle, because we want to increase droplet size a little bit, right? Still have the efficacy on the coverage side, but we want to also have a higher pressure. So to me, an AI nozzle probably makes sense. and I don't know what the flow is coming out of those, but I'm going to suspect that a gray or a white, so an 06 or an 08 would be sufficient for the amount of flow that's coming out of the sprayer.
Ryan, an 06 or an 08 on foot, that's literally putting down 2 gallons per 1,000 square foot. I'd probably
You think that's a problem?
No, not a problem. It's just that poor man here is going to do a lot of refilling.
Hey! Did Ray? Wait! We got to clip this. Did Ray just advocate for a spray volume that was less than 5 gallons per 1,000? Boys, close it up. We're done here. Hell has frozen over. He just tried to talk me out that I needed to lower my spray volume. The next thing you see out here is Ray's going to be doing ads, pre-roll ads on YouTube for Permagreen, spraying at 28 ounces.
Yes!
Okay. But the reason
Ray's
why
advertising sprays, I could pee on turf harder than that Permagreen sprays, okay? Right? All right, go on.
Do you
I'm sorry.
need to?
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying. Do you need to?
But anyway,
to pee
what I'm saying
on something?
What I'm saying is that on foot, your average person would be comfortable using like a AI 11003 or an AI 11004 nozzle at your average pressures. And by the way, Ryan, do you know why I love the classic AI nozzles on various sprayers? Is because they can control drift when they're operated between 40 all the way up to 80 or 90 psi. They're still able to control it, at that high pressure.
So this would be, I think, a fairly inexpensive switch. So these AI nozzles, AI stands for air inducted. So you're spraying out right now with like some sort of flat fan tip or cone shaped tip or whatever. So the droplet size is very, very fine, very prone to drift. You're either wearing it or it's going to the neighbor's yard, right? Just upwind, downwind. That's kind of where you're at. So, on the other end of the spectrum, you've got these nozzles that put out big, huge mega droplets that are like raindrop style, right? And that's just too big for your turf, especially with the kind of height of cut that you're at. So the AI is something in between. So there's a couple holes, little ports on the side of this that suck air into the droplet, right? And it comes out as like a bigger droplet, but it's filled with a ball of air inside of it. When it hits the ground, it like explodes, and it gives you the same coverage that you would get with the nozzle that J Pink is showing right here. Very similar coverage, right? So when it explodes, it turns into little droplets that coat the grass and leaf blades, right? So you get the reduction of drift because you have a larger, heavier droplet, with the benefit of when it hits the ground, you get coverage that's very similar to a flat fan nozzle or the cone shaped nozzle that you're used to here. So kind of the best of both worlds. And look at this.
Oh yeah,
by
that's
the way,
a beautiful representation right there.
Yeah, that is.
And you know what? It's
happens at ground zero instead of in the air.
Yeah, and you know what? It's not showing.
Yes.
Here's what I'm going to tell you about an AI nozzle. When you have solutions that contain a little bit of surfactant in them, what happens is that those surfactants help that air bubble stay together until it hits the ground. And once it does hit the ground, that air-filled droplet then, as Ryan says, it hits the weed, it splatters, and then it covers even more area than what you'd expect. And so I know the majority of my herbicide applications, for example, are all done with AI nozzles on a boom. And that boom is normally fitted with like a AI 11003. And so all I do is I just walk, and I'm laying down a gallon per 1,000 square foot as fast as my short little legs can carry me.
I think most people that are running these backpack sprayers are running the 11004s. I think is that right? I think that's what everybody's doing. I think a lot of writing. I'm making notes about all this Yard Envy, and so that way I can send it to you afterwards, and you're not just like, what the just happened.
Yeah, but then
Yeah.
at that 110.04, what I know about that, at least in my hands, is the good part about that is that if I'm running a 7-gallon sprayer, which by the way I am, then
Baller.
yeah, then what happens is that I'm applying a little bit more than an actual gallon per thousand, but the coverage out of that is still extremely good, and it all happens fast. Like, that engine drive backpack? That is empty in about 5 minutes.
Hmm.
It's empty. And I've just covered 5,000
So
square feet.
yeah, while sprinting. I think the one thing too is Yard Envy. One question, not sort of related. Are you on the lawnforum.com? That's a message board online. We had John Ware, the founder of that, on a few weeks back. Are you familiar with that site?
Yeah, I've got the app on my phone, but I'm just not actively on there. I need to get on there.
Yeah. So
I'm actually out of touch with reality.
No, that's fine. So on the lawn forum, there's a fantastic thread about how to convert your sprayer over, and John's done a lot of the legwork for you in terms of the products that you need to have and links to things like that, all that kind of thing. There's a T-jet nozzle thread on there, and I'd encourage you to go on and look at that. We'll send you a link. We'll have J Pink send you over a link to take a look at that, because I think you'll find everything you need there to kind of retrofit your existing sprayer to fit the nozzles that you want to have on there, and that you'll have a lot better luck with, I think. So, somebody asked in the chat here about like surfactants, things like that. Like, I mean, there's anti-drift aids. Like there's a lot of different things you can start messing around with. I mean, in the ag space, like, we don't, Ray, you answer me this question. We can nerd out here for a second. Why in turf do we not talk about specific gravity the way they do in ag spray?
The reason why we don't talk about specific gravity as much is because typically in ag, like we talked about on the burn and return, these guys are out trying to spray 5 to 10 gallons per acre with a rig speed of 10 to 15 miles per hour.
Bingo.
And so trying to calibrate for that gets very hairy. And when you're dealing with such a small applied volume, it gets even more important. But speaking to surfactants and additives, having the right surfactant or additive involved in your tank mix can often make the difference between the application working versus not working. Like, for example, that mix that I described a few moments ago with the Celsius, the Revolver, and the Certainty? I've had my golf guys in my state complain to me, tell me that, oh, that didn't work for shit on the carpet grass that they were trying to get rid of. And so I drilled in a little deeper and I asked them, okay, so what kind of surfactant did you add into your spray mix? And they told me, huh? And I said, wait a minute. If you want your product to work, like when you're dealing with Revolver and Celsius, the preferred surfactant is methylated seed oil.
Yeah.
That is your preferred surfactant. And you'd be amazed at what you can kill when you have a 0.5% methylated seed oil as part of that tank mix.
I believe it. Okay, so let's get back to, Dart Envy said something that kind of struck a chord with me of like, hey, he's redlining, he's ready to pop that clutch, right? And it's time to go into fourth gear. We're not ready to go to fifth gear just yet. Like, we're not there yet. But we're roaring down the drag strip here and things are looking good. Okay? They are looking good. He's motivated. All right. So, gentlemen, here's what I'm going to ask you: is what are the things that you would focus on, right, in order of priority, leading up to him? What would be the start of this next gear? That's what I guess I'm asking. I'll preface my thoughts and just say that I think getting to the newest grass and the best grass is probably something that's in your future, but I would get all this other stuff locked down and be really confident
and handled.
about how you're spraying, how you're spreading, all the other, like, really take stock this coming year, right, of what all you got, and don't rush into it. Especially if you're going to be in a house a while, like if you were going to sell and move or something like that, like maybe take a different approach. I'd go more of the the FAFO route, right? I can't say it, but the thrust around and find out, right? I don't want to ruin this montage. There you go. So I don't know. I think I would really spend the time getting the details right, and then gearing up for 23 to be a grass shift year in my mind of a project and everything like that. But what do you all think? I mean, what would you be focusing on? What are the top 1 or 2 things that you would say, hey, if you're going to take the next 12 months, figure this out and master this?
Okay. Whenever somebody tells me that they have more than 2,000 or 3,000 square foot of grass, I always think that my brain always goes here. How am I going to spray a gallon per 1,000 square foot on this area that's over 2,000 or 3,000 square foot without killing myself? That's the first thing that I think of. And especially if a reno is in the works, a higher level of maintenance is in the works, I always think about that, because I frequently run into these situations where the saddest one I've seen was somebody showed me, like, about, half an acre of what's supposed to be highly maintained turf grass. And I asked them, how does this area get treated? And I see this little 1 gallon hand sprayer come on. I said, oh, okay, got it, understood. And then even worse is I've had people that actually have acreage, and that same little 1 gallon hand sprayer comes out, and I won't even talk about their mower, because at that point I literally expected like a 7-blade or 6-blade triplex, not the bush hog that they showed me.
So what I think what you bring up in becoming extremely proficient, I mean, not just comfortable, but proficient with a spreader and a sprayer. And I saw a picture on Twitter earlier of, even on a golf course, I think they were fertilizing a tee box, or a not a tee box, the practice range, and you could see where they made their passes at the end, right, where they did the turn, and they had a beautiful turn mark in fertilizer of nice, beautiful dark green grass. And it's little things like that with the spreader that can be the difference, where you'll look at it and you'll even think, where you may have cut off the spreader a little early, and you may think that, man, what is wrong with this area of grass? And that pattern may not be completely obvious to you. And you're like, I can't figure it out. I don't know what the hell's going on with it. And it's something as simple as you flipped off the spreader 2 feet too soon. And flipping it off 2 feet too soon is the difference between looking like you've got an area of disease, or, it needs more water or something. You're scratching your head, banging your head against the wall, when in reality, it was something as simple as the spreader mishap, right? So I think those are absolutely clutch. Spreader and sprayer proficiency are an absolute must. Now, to get into a little bit more controversial, I guess, I would say,
oh boy,
nitrogen management would be also the next thing. And strategizing around nitrogen management. And
my favorite subject.
we're pending we're pending a soil test right now, and where you are in Mississippi, you could be all over the map, but chances are you're probably acidic soil. Gauging by the color of the grass in your pictures, I doubt it's anything too crazy. So I think just at least most importantly is understanding the nitrogen management piece of this. P and K can come. That's easy. That's the easy thing. It's just you either apply it or you don't need to based on what your soil test says. But what a soil test does not tell you is how to manage your nitrogen, especially now that you're going to be talking about a different level of maintenance that you haven't been accustomed to up to this point, right? When you're at the red line, you're trying to go to the next level. How do you go to the next level? Really, what it comes down to with fertilizer, the name of the game and that next level is nitrogen management. And you can overcomplicate this and say, well, you got to apply certain types of micronutrients, this, and this, and this. Yeah, you can, but really your dominant force that you have to get right for everything else to work right is nitrogen. So I think that's something to talk about here. And I think another thing to put into the total picture before we start jumping into this is your travel schedule, right? And is it something that you want to be applying every 2 weeks? Or are you looking for something that can you get away by going 4 weeks? Can you get away with going 6 weeks in between fertilizer applications? And the truth is you can.
It can be done.
You have to be much more cognizant of what you're using in terms of nitrogen sources in order to get away with that effectively and predictably, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So who wants to talk about quick release versus slow release nitrogen sources and what's out there and what may or may not be prime for Mississippi?
First question is, how often can you apply? Like what would be your knowing your personalized schedule, your commitment to the grass, all that kind of stuff? Like what's a real deal thing or a real deal time frame in terms of how often you think you can apply? Once
Not
a week,
what you want to, but like worst case scenario, this is all I'm going to be able to do.
Yeah, once every 2 weeks, once every 4 weeks, once every 6. What?
I'm home for 2 weeks straight at a time with nothing to do but honeydew list and yard work. So I mean, after that, I got an 18-year-old that loves gas money, and he'll do whatever Daddy tells him. So I can do whatever I need to do.
That's a big old carrot you got on that stick, Dad. I'm telling you what right now.
Okay.
That's gonna ruin his social agenda if he doesn't do that fertilizing, right? So he's gonna get real.
He works. At this. Yeah, he works for me when I'm gone. So his stripes ain't as good, but I can apply whenever I need to.
Okay.
Okay. So go ahead, Ray. You tell him about let's say the once every 2 to 4 weeks. What are you laying out here? What are you saying?
Okay, here's my 4-week nitrogen program, and this is geared towards real cut turf. And it's going to be a little bit surprising, and it's going to circle back to why I'm hammering on the high speed and accurate spray equipment, is because here's the problem with shortcut turf, like shortcut Bermuda. Your typical slow release granular fertilizers may have issues when you're dealing with something like shortcut Bermuda, because the granule is going to sit up top. The prill size is going to sit up top. Now, the way out of that is you got to start talking about mini or greens grade fertilizers. But last time I looked at a bag of greens grade fertilizer, that stuff was $65 to $70 a bag, my price as a professional applicator and lawn person. So accurate. The other way out of it is I use something called stabilized nitrogen. And what stabilized nitrogen is it dissolves and sprays like any other soluble nitrogen, except what you can get out of that one application is 4 weeks or longer out of that single application. And you don't also have to deal with the problem of, oh, there's a coated granule sitting on top of the turf that if my mower picks it up, it's either gone or the reel just cut the granule open. And so now I get nitrogen dump.
Yeah.
So, I'm kind of thinking about that because like what that stabilized nitrogen does for me is it makes it so that 4 weeks, 5 weeks out, the grass is still maintaining good color. Whereas if I'm doing it with like all non-stabilized nitrogen, week 3 is starting to kind of, not be as green. Week 4, this lawn needs fertilizer. And by week 5, the lawn has fallen down on its face. Because the other thing about dealing with shortcut grass is when possible, you don't want the grass to be going through highs and lows with its nitrogen. You kind of want it to be on one plane at all time, and that plane is not necessarily as high as it can go, because when you're dealing with shortcut grass, with nitrogen, less is more. Okay? And I'm talking about you're looking at no more than a 1/4 pound to a 1/2 pound of nitrogen per month total of growing season.
Which flies in the face of a lot of recommendations, right? And that's the other thing too here is that you're gonna have everybody and their brother saying, "Man, you got to put 1 pound a month down on that." And you got Matt Martin who, does a spite application to an ornery customer of, "Listen here, old man, I'm gonna give you."
Give you a couple pounds of ammonium nitrate.
I'm not smiling. I'm thinking about it. My blood pressure's boiling. I'm upset.
There's sometimes, Matt, where I'm having a bad day or I'm looking at bad grass and I think, you know what, if Matt Martin was here right now, he'd be getting cussed out and all he would do is go back on his truck and get like 3 more bags of fertilizer and just dump them all over this lawn.
Snow.
And I get a smile.
Throw it.
And I move on.
Send it.
I would snow the yard.
Mm-hmm.
I verbed the word snow and applied it to fertilizer. I am snowing lawns.
Of course, I can't say I haven't done that myself because, Ryan, when I had, back in the old days, smart aleck, mowing people, guess what I would do to them?
Oh, hit him with a medieval torture device? I don't know, Ray. What do you think?
Pound of N from Yara 111.
Oh, there you
go. Pound of N from Yara.
That's gonna be full send for sure. So, go ahead.
And for those of you that don't know what that is, Yara is a product where they make it a little different in that your typical process for making ammonium phosphate involves sulfuric acid. What Yara does is instead they incorporate nitric acid into the process, so then essentially they're generating ammonium nitrate. And so when the grass gets a hold of that, it grows like mad.
So, Ryan, let me hear. I think you've got a little bit different method of managing nitrogen. I know I do from what I just heard. Like, I do agree with Ray. I think stabilized nitrogen is a great way. What would be your approach to managing nitrogen?
In this
particular favorite. I know you have a favorite.
Oh, but not in southern Mississippi. I mean, not. I don't know that I would go with methylene urea in southern Mississippi, right? Like
I would.
I
I would 100%.
I don't know it enough. I'm just I'm projecting. Like you project, that you think everybody here eats at Tim Hortons and wears red flannel and a denim tuxedo, which we don't. I'm just projecting what all I picture of Southern Mississippi is Mobile and Brett Favre playing football in the backyard and Wranglers. Like that's literally like my interpretation of how Southern Mississippi is. So
And the copper.
Give her a go, bud. Give her a go, bud.
So in this case, like
Canadian.
if I was shut up.
He looked at me cross-eyed. I had to explain it was from another country, foreign language.
If I was really gonna take it to the next level, I would be just I really want to see the soil test first, but if we're just talking about N only, I mean, I'm probably urea, half 3/4 of a pound a month. And I'd love to spray it if I could. I mean, that would be the ideal situation and really like dial it in. But if you had to spread it, as long as you can water it in almost immediately, and this is where the stabilized nitrogen comes into effect, right? So real quick for Yard Envy and for all of our listeners, Matt, real quick, why don't you go into the two different stabilization chemistries that we have in NBPT and DCD and what those things do on the front end and the back end of the application to help us out in terms of stabilizing that nitrogen.
Yeah, so NBPT and DCD, we'll just kind of group them all together. N-butyl thiophosphoric acid, I think, is what NBPT is, and then DCD is dicyanamide. Effectively, they're going to achieve two different things. One is going to inhibit an enzyme that exists in soil and water, even called urease. When you apply urea, it has to go through a conversion process before it becomes immediately available to the plant. And this happens incredibly quickly. Understand that. But urease is the enzyme that will take urea and convert it into ammonia, which is then plant available. So by applying a urease inhibitor, you are slowing the conversion of urea to ammonia. So it doesn't necessarily extend the life of it. It doesn't extend the release of urea. It slows the conversion, and so on that initial front end, it's a bit of a urea release delay. It would be a little bit more still a simple way to talk about that, but it would delay the availability of urea, thus giving. In the idea there is by slowing that conversion of urea to ammonia is you increase the efficiency of it, right? Because ammonia being a gas, you can lose that to the atmosphere if not incorporated and stabilized within the soil, right? So if you apply a surface application of urea on the surface, it can volatilize relatively quickly, and that's where we get the term volatilization of nitrogen. So a urease inhibitor improves the efficiency. You lose less to the atmosphere. It delays that conversion and thus it delays the immediate availability. Thus, by proxy, kind of extending the life of the urea because you just don't dump it all to ammonia so quickly. And then with NBPT is you have a denitrification inhibitor there. So as it goes from ammonia and ammonium to nitrates, nitrites, nitrates, then you have that denitrification inhibitor, which will again slow that process down. So it's a bit if you're using one that contains both NBPT and DCD, you're kind of doubly protecting yourself across the lifespan of the nitrogen. So anyway, kind of a complicated explanation there, but at least to explain the advantage of using something like a urea stabilizer. And here's the other thing: here's kind of a budget thing. Some people don't know is you can buy UMax, UFlex, and you pay X number of dollars for that. the real redneck thing to do, and this is kind of some top secret stuff that I used to do, is you heard right, is you can buy a concentrated MBPT and DCD and roll your own Uflex or Umax, and there's lots of different options out there like Hydrex or Infix.
Hydrex.
And
Hydrex.
they all play into this. I like Infix better than Hydrex personally. In fact, there's another one that I like better than all of those because of the concentration of MBPT to DCD in it. Ultra low use rate stuff, and
secrets.
Yeah, a little bit harder to find, but I'll put it in the notes so that way you can find it. But effectively, how much are you going to be saving over the course of the year? Is you may be saving a few bucks or whatever. I come at it from the standpoint that I had to do that because if I saved a few bucks on a yard and then multiply that out by 400 yards, then all of a sudden I'm saving a couple grand a year, and that makes more sense to me. So a lot of times it's easier just to get Uflex or Umax. It's already built in, it's done, it's a fantastic product, and you don't have anything to worry about. For the applicators at home that are hearing this, you can buy Hydrex or Infix and effectively roll your own Umax or Uflex and save you a couple bucks off the top there.
There you go.
And I have a third one for you. The third way to do this, and I've seen this work quite well on shortcut warm season turf, is a third rate of good old Scott's Turf Builder. This is going to sound like heresy, but here's what Scott's Turf Builder is.
We just got on Turf Truth. Shit.
Ammonium nitrogen.
I'm kidding.
No, ammonium nitrogen and methylene urea, and it's also formulated in the equivalent of greens grade. So you'll have no problems dealing with that granule on real cut turf.
And that's the fallback, right?
Yeah, that's like the out. That's like the out, because Ryan, when a consumer that is maintaining their own lawn and they're using a reel mower comes up to me and asks me, what should I be giving my lawn? And I tell them, apply no more than 1 pound actual of Scott's Turf Builder every month. Not 1 pound of nitrogen, but 1 pound of the actual granule per month.
Where is this coming from?
Me.
Oh, okay.
So
yeah,
I was going to say, the way I would approach this is I agree with the stabilized nitrogen, but I would jumpstart at times of the year with a slow release granular. So I would probably kick off the season with an application of like a 50% slow release, 50% straight, and straight quick release urea. And I would probably look for something that has like a duration 45 or a duration 90, even something that high. Or if you can't find that, I would go the route of like methylene urea or Mesa from Lebanon Turf, Proscape, and somewhere around that 50-50 mark. And I would jumpstart things as it's breaking dormancy and starting to move into full green up. I'd go high. I would go at a full pound of N there, just to hurry up and get through that period of establishing cover, right? So that way, when you got the temperatures, it's rocking and rolling, you hurry up, you get coverage, then you can maintain from that point with your with just your applications of stabilized nitrogen. Now, where that's going to set you back is that probably that mid-season scalp you're going to have to do to reset your node cut, is that it's probably going to happen a little earlier because you're going to come out of the gate growing a bit more vigorously than you anticipated. So there is a little bit of a net drawback, but it should get you to full coverage. You're not going to green up any faster, but that initial coverage period, theoretically, in my opinion, in my experience, I get there a bit quicker, coming out hot and heavy on the front end, and then being able to scale it back based on closer to demand as we move a little bit later into the growing season. So charge it with a granular fertilizer, hot and heavy, and then feed it out the rest of the season with smaller spoon feed rates of and Ray
Yeah.
likes a quarter pound to a half pound. I'm more of a half pound to 3/4 of a pound. I definitely would not be doing 3/4 of a pound in a single application, even if it is from a stabilized nitrogen source. That's some hot sauce coming out, and I mean it would be an absolute bitch to keep up with. So definitely if
Yeah.
you're going to go as high as 3/4 of a pound, you got to split that up into 2 apps.
And that leads me to another point. When you're maintaining real low, what are your plans as far as plant growth regulators are concerned? And the reason why
That's
I
one of the
asked,
questions I had.
okay,
Oh
and the
boy,
reason
here we go.
no, and the reason why I ask is because typically when you have Bermuda that is kept green enough with nitrogen, there comes a line that you've crossed where, to give an analogy that Ryan can understand, the engine is at full throttle and you're at red line and you go any faster, something's going to blow. And
There you go.
what it is that typically when I can get grass acceptably green on nitrogen, I've reached the point where mowing is hard to keep up with. Okay? I know it's getting enough in when, in absence of a plant growth regulator, mowing's tough to keep up with. And what I typically do in that case is I start to employ plant growth regulators like Trinexapac. There's a couple others that I use in combination with Trinexapac when it's appropriate. But I could imagine a program consisting of spoon feeding low rates of stabilized nitrogen and Trinexapac as your foundational program to enable you to even live with, your lawn.
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to do more research and really dig into plant growth regulators, but I see where, because of my schedule, I was gonna ask y'all how I could use that to help me as far
You know
as
what I would, you know what I'd be
benefits
doing?
for the grass plus my schedule.
You know what I'd be doing before, leaving town to go to work for the 2 weeks that you're not there? That is when I do this. I'd mow it one more time, and then I'd growth
Oh
regulate
yes.
the bejesus out of it before leaving. Okay? I mean, I would just growth regulate the heck out of it.
I would almost steer you towards tell me this. Just watching the success, I have no experience with Anu, but watching the success of people with Anu, I wonder if that would be more applicable in this situation, because you got to think, going by growing degree days in South Mississippi, that can get pretty tight in summer.
Oh yeah.
Where in 2
Okay.
weeks you may be rolling up on 200, 225 growing degree days.
Okay, Matt, I have to kind of, caution you in that the prolonged duration of Anu is only applicable for cool season grasses. In warm season grasses, it's short-lived. However, the flip side is, do you know what I use Anu for? I use Anu to rapidly induce regulation. Like my typical tank mix is Cutlass plus Anu. The Cutlass will take a week or two to start working, but then based on what the new farm people have told me, Anu starts regulating growth in as short as 2 to 3 days under average conditions. It's fast. And that leads me to my other point, is that if I were maintaining a lot of common Bermuda being maintained at a moderate but lower height of cut, I'd be looking at this other plant growth regulator called Cutlass. And the reason why I'd be looking at it is because
it
has
hardcore.
But then Cutlass has
big money, no whammies, and stop.
It has a very prolonged action. At label rates, I've seen it last as long as 30 to 45 days. It's just something to consider. Although the initial price tag on it is stupidly high, to put it nicely, but your amount used is rather low.
And it's only sold in 18-year-olds gas money.
I was thinking of something else. What did Sean Smith use that he had some problems with?
Edgeless.
I don't remember that.
Edgeless.
Okay.
Was edgeless.
Okay.
I was confused.
And you know what his problem was? Both Sean and James had problems with edgeless because they were applying it to, I think, the very varieties of turf grass that you should never use Cutlass on. Like, for example, if Yard Envy told me that he was dealing with something like TIF 328, I'd tell him no Cutlass, because Cutlass gets very strange on dwarf and semi-dwarf Bermuda, especially if it's being maintained at lower heights of cut. Whereas something like 419 or even common Bermuda, as long as you have a monostand of common Bermuda, I don't see any issues with something like Cutlass or combinations of Cutlass with other PGRs. It all depends on your actual variety and knowing your cultivar, because even though all of these PGRs say they're labeled for Bermuda, there's big differences in how each cultivar reacts to the various PGRs. Like, for example, I would never subject Tifgrand, for example, to Cutlass, Ryan. I'd never do it. And you know why I'd never do it?
Well, lay it on me.
It's because Cutlass or Florprimidol tends to not do very well on semi-dwarf and true dwarf Bermuda. In fact, on the labeling, there's a specific prohibition against applying it to Bermuda grass greens. It's just a do not do.
All the more reason that Yard Envy's not going to do is green, right? At least not yet. Maybe that'll be when we shift into fifth gear. So we'll
just
coming up on 2
single
hours.
Green.
A single green, right? Exactly. With many T's,
one
though,
green,
because it'll still be 18 holes. So okay, we've covered a lot. I think I think in my mind, right, it's a lot of perfecting the art in 2022 to get ready for the big shift in 2023. That's how I see it in my mind. Certainly you can speed it up, but really, your time frame is going to be, spring of each of those years to really set the stage and change grasses. But, I got to say, as a whole, I thank you for putting your content out there. Something that people might not know about you is that you do all of your shooting, your editing, and your uploading on your phone because you don't have high-speed internet at your house. Not because you don't want to, but because the utility regulators of the state of Mississippi just haven't got it down there just yet. So they're working on it. But again, kudos to you for taking the time to not only do this and enter this journey and really just try to dive in full scale. I love that part of it, but I love it even more that you're trying to share it with people. And I'll be honest with you, a big reason we brought you on was just that we could tell that you wanted it. Like you were really after
the next
having
level.
a great lawn, the next level of having a great lawn and trying to do the best that you could with what you had. And I'll tell you, you'll always be welcome here because you seem like a great dude. You're trying your best, and we'd love to see you get to wherever it is that you want to go. So with that, what other questions? Anything else here to wrap up? Any closing remarks?
For myself, man,
Sure.
I've got a lot to get ready for. But yeah, like you said, I need to get. You wouldn't get a herd of cows before you build a fence to put them in, you know. So
Yeah.
I need to get everything, get my gear right, get my mind right, get a plan before I ever do it. Or I'll end up like I did with the bent grass fail when I tried to overseed. Yeah.
Oh man, I don't even want to think about that in southern Mississippi. But no, seriously, I think this is going to be one. And we've talked about this, on our own end internally of, who do we want to have back, next year, and talk about the update, like where are they at? Definitely, want to talk to you. This is like the doctor visit. Like, all right, Yard Envy, we want to see you back here in 6 to 8 months. Let's talk it over. Let's look at your lab results and see where we go from here, right? So
I'm down with it.
We are too. We are too. All right, now, real quick here, we are about ready to go into the after show. Ray, you've been to the after show. Yard Envy, I think you've seen the after show, and if you haven't, let me brief you on it real quickly. It's man talk and girl talk. We don't discriminate between the genders. We really don't care, but it is adult talk, right? We talk about things that might make some uncomfortable. We talk about things that, we use some coarse, crass, and otherwise rough language, from time to time, to look at different things that are out there in the world right now. Okay, so if you do want to be a part of that, you have the opportunity right now to slide down there to the bottom, click the membership button, go ahead and join that. Jump on here. It is only the cost of, Matt says, an airport beer, but where the way inflation's going, it's going to be maybe a beer, a beer and a half, roughly. Maybe a beer and a shot, something like that. All right, please jump on there. Subscribe for sure. Join our membership, and also we've got Patreon. So www.patreon.com/burn and return. Check that out too if you like our podcast. Otherwise, we'll see you all next week, right? We've got a great show ahead of us. Special guest, surprise guest coming up next week. And in 2 weeks, if you're so fortunate as to come and have been a member of the channel, we'll see you live in person. No recording, no live show, nothing other than in person in Louisville, Kentucky at GIE Live. With that, thank you so much. Have a fantastic evening, and we'll see you next time.